Oh, it's only with Jeanette that you go and take off the glasses, right, Mike? With me, I get the full Michael
Because
Panozzo
I have
experience.
the charts and everything with Jeanette. I just hit the camera.
just just free rolling, right, Mike? Just
That's right.
it's all good. It's all good. Well, we're back for another edition of Dog, and it's with my better half here, Mr. Panozzo, Billiards Digest. Mike, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Exciting day. I mean,
Yeah,
all the
exciting days, the right word.
today it made it. Just the first day was exciting enough. And I'm thinking, boy, it's just going to get roller coaster from here, right?
It's so easy to like just assume and think it's gonna be chalk. And I know we just had the NCAA tournament. I brought up this earlier, but it's like you kind of just get accustomed to just seeing like big names roll through. You're like, that one's not really worth scoreboard watching because you just know they're gonna go and get through. And then you have day one that goes and happen, and it reminds you and it humbles you in the fact that it's 9 ball pool and any damn thing can go and happen.
Yeah, anything can happen. Yeah, a lot of 15s can beat twos, and you know,
Yeah, yeah,
12s and all that stuff that we see in the NCAA tournament. So yeah, same thing
yeah,
here.
for sure.
There
Well,
most of the big guys got through, but there were some really notable names that
big
going to have
names,
to
Mike.
win a match or two tomorrow to get in.
Yeah, I mean, fighting for survival is going to be the key. And the ones who did make it through, we're going to go ahead and jump right into them. But they're going to have the day off tomorrow, and it starts up top with the reigning defending champion who didn't really seem to have any issues, Mike, and Albin Ouschan.
No, no, he just seemed to pick up right where he left off and looked really confident. Really cool. The way he always looks. I mean, right? You never know whether he's winning or losing by watching him. And he'll
It's
just come
true.
up with some like crazy wild shot, and he'll just kind of look at the table and walk around to the next shot. And be
Did
like,
you see that replay that they shared where the first
yeah,
match they the kick and then he ends up cutting the ball all the way down? It's pretty sick.
yeah, you kick to the side the long rail and slice
Yeah,
all the way up the rail into the corner pocket, and he walked around like not like I do this all the time, but his mental approach to the game is so strong about never getting too high or never getting too low. I mean, he's been accused of getting too low and getting angry or whatever, but when he's rolling, he just it's time to move on to the next shot. It's not time to congratulate yourself about that shot or pump your fist or anything. He's already moving on to the next shot. That ball went in, however it got in, and he's on to the next shot. And that's the way he approaches the game, which is, um, you know, he does a lot of mental training, and it shows.
I'll tell you what. I mean, he can really make 9 ball pool look kind of silly, with
Yeah,
how effortless it can kind of be at times. And it's not because of his kind of reckless approach to it, because it's very deliberate. Reminds me of like a lot of Carlo. You don't really see a whole lot of crazy 2 and 3 rail positions from Albin. He tends to kind of just simplify things, but the bottom line is that he gets the job done, and he ends up usually being there towards the tail end of every event. And it looks like he's well on his way to at least having a shot at defending his title. And at the very least, he's going to be in the onto the single elimination stage of the
yeah,
final 64.
yeah. Let me ask you this: what's your thought on starting single elimination with 64? Is that too far out for you? I mean, personally,
I'm
I'd like to start it.
32 sounds better,
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. It's kind of I mean, I guess it's good that they get a day off, but then it's like they only played for really one day. So it's like how fatigued are they really going to be? I don't think very much because they're all professionals. Most of these guys are athletes. They all train very well. So I'm with you. And I think if I'm not mistaken, the US Open was the final 32 whenever they finally decided to go and drop down. So but maybe because of a deeper field, Mike, I'm not I mean, there has to be some logistical reason behind it. But I'm kind of with you. Like, let them at least get to 32, and then kick your feet up a little bit, relax. You
Well, you
know.
have to play another match. I mean, like these guys in the winners bracket now, they're happy they get tomorrow off, but they played one day, they played two matches, and on Friday, they're one and done if they lose. That's
Yeah,
that's a tough role.
and there's also something to be said when it comes to getting in table time, Mike. Those guys who are going to be playing, if they make it through, they're at least going to be playing 2 rounds tomorrow. So you can argue that there's an advantage to having more time at playing on those tables versus the guys who are going to have the day off. So I mean, I guess you can look at it either way. I'm sure on the one loss side, like, and we'll get to it, but it's a hair softer, but it is what it is. I mean, there is going to be a couple of big guys in there without a doubt.
Yeah,
Another guy that got through, Matt Shitney, and I'm not, and forgive my cussing here because I'm not trying to pronounce his name terribly, but he defeats Thorsten and Thomas Kaplan, a couple of big wins for him, Mike.
yeah, sure. I mean, there's some guys who pulled off some pretty good wins to get where they're at. Another guy. I mean, I saw a message up here. Shane's only hope is always. I wonder which Shane he's talking about because there's two of them in there for us right now.
Well, let's just jump right into it because that seems to be the story of the day, and it's Shane Wolford going and defeating David Alcady, and more importantly, he's through to the knockout stage already, Mike.
Yeah, he is, and it's great. And he's been showing that kind of promise in the past year. A lot of people talking about him more. He's had some good matches, some good wins. Showed fairly well. But for American pool fans, it's just good to see not one of the usual suspects go in there, young and aggressive, and take down a big name. So it kind of gives you hope for, okay, maybe this kid's going to be a Moscone Cup player. Maybe he's going to be a Moscone Cup player for the next
Right.
6 years. So that was kind of fun to watch, and I thought he handled it really well. I saw an interview he did with Carol Boys afterwards, and he said,
I didn't get to watch it, Mike. I saw they had posted it, but I didn't get a chance to take a look at it.
yeah, he just talked about how he was, the David Alcade match was probably the biggest match he's won in his career, given the circumstance. And how he noticed that Jeremy Jones is there watching, and you want to make a good impression because he's like every other kid in Europe and the U.S. and that's
Right.
playing the Moscone Cup, right? The most visible pool event in the world. So good to see him doing that, and be anxious to see how he draws into the final 64. And
Right.
then the other Shane Van Boney, you know, he looked really good at sometimes, and I watched his second match against
Van Leerup.
yeah,
Jeff. Yeah.
from from Netherlands, and he looked like he was going to win 9-0. It was effortless. He was just flying through, and then he had a couple weird little scratches late in the rack, and instead of being 6-0 or 7-0, it was 5-2. He gave away a couple of games, and then all of a sudden it became 7-5, and it was a little bit of a dog fight from there. I don't think he ever really worried that he was not going to make it across the finish line, but
You can't make those kind of hiccups with Albins of the world.
no,
I promise you that.
He knows that. He knows later on
Yeah.
not going to get away with it.
You're gonna have to tighten the screws a little bit, Mike.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, going back to Shane Wolford, that is, um, I'm gonna preface it by saying when I see little wins throughout an event, I tend not to be a victim of the moment. Don't read too deep into it. Take it for what it is. It's a W. But with Shane, there's consistency now, Mike, because we've seen him over the course of, let's say, 18 months or so, start to take steps, wins, great battles. David is seasoned. David is a veteran. David is a 9-ball monster. So I watched Shane a little bit out in Vegas, most notably against Copigny. It was after hours. They were playing late. Wasn't no camera around. But what I noticed about him, Mike, is how poised he is. How he never seemed to get rattled. He didn't seem to get emotional. He sat his butt down in the chair when it wasn't his turn. He decided to go and just handle his business whenever it was. He got out when he was supposed to. And I heard, because a buddy of mine was there out in the UK for this event, American player. He was like, man, Shane started off with like a 4-pack or something, and David goes and takes a break. Now it's winter break, Mike. David gets up to go take a break. Now we've been around pool long enough to know what that means, and and what you're doing there. Yeah,
Is that bad style?
I mean, it don't look too good, Mike. But I mean, I can appreciate some gamesmanship. I really can.
Yeah.
I know.
I don't know what the circumstances were in terms of how he got to 4-0. If he ran 4 racks in a row and then David got up, it'd be one thing. But if in that last rack David was at the table and missed a shot that allowed Shane to get that 4th game in a row, then if I'm David, I might have to pull myself back together a little bit. But
I don't know if it was a true 4. I didn't really ask that much, but it was something to the effect of, me, Sky, and I think Billy were there watching, which, for Shane being, you know, Shane's a young buck, so to have those
Yeah.
guys sitting there and watching and rooting you on,
What
it's great
action?
here. But then they can also make you do this number here a little bit too, Mike.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And then to still hold it together the way you did, and that little, I mean, just call it what it is, Mike. Call that little move. If you
yeah,
want to put it there, I don't care if it's a true four or if it was a safety battle four. It don't matter. If it's the man's break, wait till it's your damn turn to go use a restroom. Go in
yeah.
a rack first, and then you go and take a break. Anyway, congratulations to Shane. Um, when I talked to Jeremy out in Vegas, he made it a point to go and bring up his name. And this is now the second time that I've asked Jeremy, who I thought who's that next guy on the radar, and Shane Wolford always comes up in that conversation, and rightfully so.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and America needs to be shaken up some, you know.
yeah.
Um,
Well, you
and
got
I
to start
think there's
planning,
opportunities.
planning for the future. You got to start planning for the future a little bit. You got to start bringing these guys in one at a time every year or so, bringing a new younger kid, see
Right.
what happens. And yeah, he seems to be, one of those names that's popping up. And I remember a year or so ago, I took a little shot at him because he had won a bar table tournament and people were talking about him. And they said, don't talk to me until you're out there playing in the big table tournaments with
Well,
the
we
big.
talked about this. I don't remember if it was here or somewhere else, Mike, where it was kind of like there was a big table event going on, and he was playing like Hennessy or something, and
Yeah,
I don't remember it, and it was recently too. It was within the past few months. But to his credit, he's out there, and I mean, again, it's early stages of the World Championship, but it certainly it gives you optimism, it gives you encouragement, it gives you a spark to go and think, man, if I can go and win against David, there's David's in a different caliber,
yeah.
different tier.
That's the thing to me. I can see this being the type of thing that now Shane Wolford's going to sit down and he's going to say, I'm not going to miss any of these big events, because I'm starting to feel a little bit better. I think I can play with these guys and it's fun, it's exciting. My
Right.
heart gets pumping when I win in an arena like this, and that'll spur him to, make sure that he's at all these big table events, and that's a good thing because he's going to need that going forward.
No, I mean, there's plenty of opportunity, Mike, and Shane was one of the few Americans. Shane Wolford, that is, one of the few Americans to go and make it through. Some notables that went down in day one, were made up by Americans. Chris Reinhold loses the very first round. Sky Woodward, which nobody saw coming, loses the very first round. You said Shane had a little bit of a scare in the second round, but he made it through. So I mean, for a guy like Wolford, it's an opportunity, and you kind of have to take the bull by the horns.
Yeah, yeah. These opportunities that they're not easy to come by. You talk to the top players, and you know,
Yeah.
you can go to one of these big events with high hopes and be
Well,
on a roll, and you can bring up Jason Shaw's name. I mean, he was one of the sexy picks right out of the gate as being okay. This guy's pretty much
very.
guaranteed for the final 16, right? And then you see what happens from there. He's playing so well, and he wants it. And here he goes in the second round and loses to this young Czech kid that he lost to a year ago.
Oh,
Um,
he did. Oh, so there's history here.
well, there is a little bit of history. I saw, again, a little interview with Carl Boyes, who does just a great job with the interviews around here. He's so good. But, anyways, he was
He
talking
really is.
after his first match, and Jason was talking about how well he's been playing this year and how good he feels and how well he played in Vegas at the World Tournament and in the Premier League, and he was really feeling good, really hungry here. We had a good first round win, and they were talking about history, and I guess he had played this kid um, at another event with, I don't remember what the event was, whether it was a Matchroom event or a Euro
Euro
Tour.
Tour.
May have been a Euro Tour because they said he said he was up like 8-6 or something like that to race to 10, and all of a sudden the referee wasn't there, and he asked where the
Mm.
referee was, and he was told that the referee had timed out and was taking a lunch break with.
Hey, when you gotta
So
eat, you gotta eat, man.
so another this I guess this was at the World Championship last year, and another referee had to come in and take over the match with just a couple games left. And according to Jason, he got a slug rack right out of the gate, and it got in his head, and he ended up losing.
Lovely. I can already
So
see Jason getting on tilt.
yeah, there was a little bit of history there. I don't know if anything funny happened today, other than the fact that the kid,
Hey man, some guys just have some guys' numbers, man. We've seen it with Oliver and Shane over the last 12 months or so,
Yeah,
where just certain matchups for whatever reason just don't bode well in your favor. Like Kachi's a monster and Dennis Grave. If you go look at history of Euro tours. Every time Dennis and Kachi go and match up, Dennis Grave seems to have Kachi's number. Now it's no disrespect to Dennis because I love the guy and
yeah.
he's a fantastic player, but
He's not.
Koch is a monster, so you would think on paper like Koch is going to go into it the favor, but every damn time, man, it seems like Dennis always just gets him, and matchups matter in fights, Mike. We know it all too well, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
No,
there was plenty of other guys that went and made it through. Mike Daniel Cormier of Italy after taking down Sky, he defeats the Greek Demetrios on his way to the final 64. Ruiz picking up right where he left off from Derby, another fantastic couple of wins for him.
yeah,
Beating Baser, Albanian partner of Kachi, and then Kian, looks like a Vietnamese player. For me, Mike, one of the ones that I was happy to go and see make it through is Darren Appleton. Some
yeah.
fantastic wins. Craig Osborne is a great English player. Uh, Bart Batowski or some Polish name. I don't know who he is. I've
Bartkowski.
never. But Polish guys can go and play. I know that. When I see the flag
Yeah.
next to him, I know that guy can go and hit balls.
Well, who was his first win was over an American play, wasn't it?
No, it was Craig Osborne, another English player. But Craig can play some nine ball. I've seen him before in what do you call it, the GB9 events.
Who Bartkowski's win was over?
Oh no!
Yeah.
Bukowski won
Who did
over Alex. He
he,
he he really started the upsets of the day, Mike, for my money, beating Alex.
Yeah, right, exactly. That's what it was. Right, right, right. So, yeah, good wins for Darren. Nice to see him through to the final 64. He's really played well lately this year, and he seems really committed to getting back into it. I watched.
It's easy to say that though, Mike. It's one thing to go and say, it's another thing to go and do. And Darren's going and doing it, which is fantastic, man. I think the game is a lot better when Darren Appleton's playing fantastic pool.
Yeah, no, it makes it more exciting. Then our world 10 ball champion put a pretty good spanking on Pinyi Ko. So Wojciech Swiatek. I don't know how to say it properly.
Yeah, I mean he beats Roman Heibler 9-6 and then follows that up with a 9-4 win over Copigny. And yeah, I mean
Yeah,
I really didn't know what to go and expect from Big Co, or I mean any of the Co brothers for that matter. I mean, I said it before when I seen, Alex come back, he didn't get back in stroke for 6 months of professional play. When I saw Dennis come back from COVID, I didn't see him go and getting geared till a good 6 months later. So I mean, kind of have to take it with a grain of salt, but nevertheless, I mean, Wojcik did his job, and
yeah, sure did.
probably at least even money, just given his momentum, on paper going into that match. But 9-4 victory, man, that's got to be a boost of confidence for sure.
Yeah,
Other guys that made it through, Mike Kachi, after being down, I think something like 4-2, Tahan comes back and wins 9-5. Mark Bisterbosch is through with a 9-4 victory. Oscar and Josh. Well, I mean, that was pretty brutal. Nobody runs as bad as far as draws as my boy Oscar does. And I was hoping they're giving little updates, Mike, little nuggets here and there, and it's like 4-4, 3-3, 5-5, yeah,
yeah,
5-4 Oscar, I think. And I thought he
yeah,
had him.
yeah.
It wasn't meant to be though.
Much after that. So, that'll happen. That'll happen for sure. Mika, Kelly Fisher, had Mika, she came back she was up early and then down late, then came back to tie it, broke on the hill, and, a little bit of a safety battle after she didn't get quite right on the two. And she ended up taking, did you go back and look at that at all?
I didn't get to watch it, Mike, but I mean, I'll say this, man. Mika's playing some great pool right now. And if
She
you're going to
is.
go and get to Hill against Mika, I mean, line them up. I could think about another. I could think of a few guys on the winner side that I would go and like Kelly against. Let
Yeah,
alone on the one loss side. And she can play nine ball, Mike. She can play great
yeah, she
nine ball,
had him.
especially at this format.
Took kind of a weird, two rail kick at a ball that I thought that she could hit without kicking. Maybe it wasn't. It just looked weird to me, and it just sold out, and that was a shame on the hill. So I'm sure she's kicking herself tonight, and hopefully, she just needs to get another win in tomorrow to get back into that final 64, and then she's got the same shot everybody else has, one and done.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy to sit here and talk about moral victories, right? But Kelly is a decorated champion, so I doubt she's going and
Moral victories.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, yeah. I mean, she wanted to go and get that damn W.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
let's take a look here. Aloysius Yap gets through 9-4 over Chris Alexander in his second round, following that up with a great win over Dimitri Jungo. And Jungo, a Swiss player who plays amazing pool. So congrats to Yap. Ralph Suke, man, golly, talk about timeless guys like Darren and Mika. Ralph is just, I mean,
Yeah.
and he's beat, and his last match was against Jonas, and Jonas is a world junior champion whose
Right.
stock has been on the rise over the last like 2 months. It seems like.
Yeah, you look at guys like Darren and like Mika, and it kind of feels like they're making a comeback. You look at Ralph; he's never been gone.
Yeah, he's just always there. He's always there. You're absolutely right. That's it.
He's never not been there. So just yeah, amazing. The more he plays, the deeper he goes in events like this at this point in his career, the more impressed I am by him. And like I've said before, clearly to me, you know, in the history of European pool to today, he's the best European player ever.
That's
I
a
don't
that's a
think,
bold statement, Mike.
I don't think there's any question about it.
Well, I think a lot of guys would go and agree with you, and I've heard personally from a lot of very now and relevant European players who would go and co-sign on that statement, Mike. So yeah, I mean, kudos to Ralph, man, and wish him all the best. Robbie Capito makes it through, Mike, over a big win on Omar Al Shaheen.
Yeah, he looked good. He looked really good. I watched
After
that.
about halfway through that match, Mike, he looked like he just didn't have a care in the world. And this is the
Oh,
same Robbie Capito that I saw a couple years ago make it through to the quarterfinals of the World Championships, the years that Carlo won. Robbie's certainly capable, but the other side of it, Mike, is Omar just hasn't quite looked as
no,
sharp as from whenever we last saw him at that World Championship a year ago.
yeah, he looked a little defeated late in the match against Robbie. He had a couple of times at the table and just didn't look like he was focused. Didn't look like he was dialed in. So that was a shame.
Even when I seen him at the Derby, when I forgot where else I had seen him. I mean, I saw him in Vegas. I mean, what little bit I did see of him, I saw in Vegas, but it really wasn't making much waves on the pool table like I'm used to seeing from Omar.
Yeah,
So hopefully he can go bounce back because I think he's got a lot of tools and he's a very exciting player. He's one of the best bank pool players on earth. And just his style of play, like I really am engaged watching because you just never know what's going to go and happen. But that kind of like gunslinger way of shooting the ball can kind of get you into trouble at times, Mike. And Robbie's not that guy. He's coming off a big win lately or recently in California um, against Carlo Biato in a final. We saw him go and have a hill loss in the World Championships to Darren Appleton. So he's one of these guys that are just like making strides, man, and
yeah.
he's gonna have a run at going for a world championship.
All these tournaments seem to have a couple of guys like that. Who last year it was a couple of events in a row with Yap and Oy and players like that. And then this year you've got a couple of these other players. The
The
Polish
future's looking bright, Mike, for pool.
yeah, Polish players finally like broken through that championship
Right.
year.
But
Although
it wasn't the Polish players you were expecting because I know that if me and you were to go and make a wager on who we thought was gonna go and break through, it would. I mean, Victor probably would have been number three on that list
yeah,
and an
yeah,
immediate number three on that list. But
yeah,
Wojcik would not have been number one or number
no,
two.
no,
Because
no,
I would have said Conrad or I would have said Conrad, Fortunsky, and then Victor. But then I would have been on the fence because Victor's playing some
yeah,
great pool right now.
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, I mean. And congratulations to him because both of them were just really
yeah.
humble guys.
And I think that now every Polish player should be like, I'm the next guy. I'm the next guy that's going to break through. And so I think it could, we could be looking at a pretty good run with these guys in this year coming through. And then I was looking at this kid Daniel Gutenberger, Austrian kid. He took Victor out in the first round, and then pretty well stomped Tyler in the second round. So he's through to the final 64, and he's a guy I really don't know much about at all.
I don't
So,
know a damn thing about him, Mike. I watch a lot of pool and I know a lot of pool players. I could not go and pick that guy up out of a lineup if you put a gun to my head.
yeah,
I am
well,
losing that bet 100% of the time.
yeah, it's these Euro Tour guys, and they're all good. I mean, Euro Tour is super deep, but I think that comfort level of playing each other all the time, definitely, takes a little bit of heat off you when you bump into somebody at one of these
Oh,
tournaments that you played and 6 different Euro tours, right?
Yeah.
So
You pair that with one on the spot template rack 9 ball,
yeah,
you're anything can go on and happen because it is
yeah,
going to be the Wild West.
yeah. That's why Jason was saying it's so important in these events, in an event like this one, to get some rhythm going and get an early lead. Run that 3-pack, run that 4-pack. Establish your break and get a little lead and make the guy chase, because it's so easy for the opponent to come back and run forward. And so that so you just really
Yeah, but
have.
it's also can be like a little bit of what's the phrase, like tough action, because it is so wide open, so to speak. You
Yeah.
know, um, I'm sure most of these guys would want to get in it better, with their money. But yeah, it's gonna make for some exciting pool, Mike.
Yeah, no, we got, the winners, like we said, winners get tomorrow off. And they'll all be sitting around chomping at the bit for Friday to come around, because, they
For
want
sure.
guys like
Some
John,
other some other
Albin.
winners that made it through, Mike. Niels Fine, another world champion. I tell you
Yeah,
what, when it comes to 9 ball players and guys who have been there before, Niels is close to being at the top of that list. Chang Jin Lin makes it through with the 9-2 victory over some guy, can't even begin to pronounce his name. Conrad defeats Hunter Lombardo, another Polish player, through. Naoki Oi defeats Matt Edwards. Ko Ping Chung, another Taiwanese player, defeats Byram Lofty 9-2. John Mora, pretty strong win, Mike. John's one of these guys with stock on the rise and heading the right direction. 9-2 over Marco Kazakis with a huge win. One guy that I just love watching win, Mike. I don't know why I root for the guy the way I do. Probably because he's just so nice, and I don't got a bad thing to go and say about him. But Alex Kazakis, 9-6 over Wu Kun Lin. Big, 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 big win. I can't go and understate that enough, Mike. Or overstate it, rather.
yeah. And then, so then looking through tomorrow's losers brackets, got some interesting matchups. Craig Osborne, Alex Pagulayan, um, you know, Chris Reinhold, if Americans want to come through it all. He's got Chris Melling tomorrow.
It's
Uh,
tough, Mike. That's tough.
that's a
Yeah,
tough one.
man. I know Reinhold's playing some great pool right now, and we haven't seen a whole lot of Melling. Melling isn't that guy I want to go and face on the one last side fighting for my life, Mike.
Yeah, no, because he can just, he can make a match look pretty silly in a hurry. So,
Tyler as well is going to have his hands full because it looks like he's going to be facing Thorsten Holman in
right.
order to go move on as well. So I mean the Americans are going to be up against that are on the one loss side. Sky, if he fades one match, looks like he's got Al Youssef, coming right afterwards. I don't know how much of a cupcake that is, with given how Al Youssef played at Turning Stone, recently.
Yeah,
But you got to like Sky's chances.
yeah, you do. I mean, well, he doesn't have a choice, right? He's got to win 2
Yeah.
matches now to get to stay in the hunt. So, maybe it'll give him a chance to get into a little bit of a, maybe the first match will, if he plays well, get him a chance to get into a little bit of a gear, a little bit of a rhythm, and make it through that second match, because we need a few more stars and stripes in that final 60.
Well, you look at the stars and stripes, Mike. They're all peppered throughout the one loss side. Corey Deuel, Billy Thorpe, Mason Koch. I mean, there's so many Americans that as I scroll through here that I see.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of them in there. Justin Toy.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
And Billy's gonna have his hands full because he's gonna face the winner of Daniel Snyder, who's playing great right now, and Chang Yu Long. And
yeah,
Chang Yu Long is nobody to be fooled around with. So that should be a great matchup. Omar's gonna have the winner of Daniel's brother Michael and Veronica. I don't know, some German player. I can't pronounce her last name either.
yeah. Well, Veronica Ivanowskaya, she made the final 64 last year.
Oh, okay. If I'm sure if I see her picture, I can go and think who she is. But
Yeah, she's
yeah,
tall, taller,
yeah.
thin, solid player. She's been to Derby a couple times.
Actually,
She's a good player.
I didn't know that. Okay, well, um, yeah, it's gonna make for a fun day too. I don't know, if you can go like we talked about earlier. I don't know if there's gonna be an advantage to playing day two versus having the day off and getting some rest. I'm sure a lot of those guys will be hitting the practice tables regardless. But some big names that are going to be fighting for their lives: Dennis Grave, Kwok from Vietnam, who's playing fantastic. Victor, and if he wins that, he's going to go and face Thomas Kaplan, one of his Polish brothers over there, Benjamin Buckley, Fabio Petroni, Daniel Maciel. The list goes on and on, Mike. I mean, we're going to be having a world champion crown here pretty, in the next few days. But day one's coverage, I thought was pretty great, Mike, on the production side of it and the way that the arena looked. And I've heard nothing but from the players that everything was just top shelf, Mike.
Yeah, yeah. I'm surprised that you haven't heard. I think last year I heard some comments about all the outlying tables being on concrete, and that can be a little bit rough on you if you play 2 or 3 matches in a day on a
Well, they
concrete.
can run too, Mike. I mean, if you go and play on concrete, that ball is going to be lightning fast.
Yeah, yeah. No, it could be, but it's
Yeah.
that. But I thought production today was really good. Hopefully in the future we can get some commentary on table 2. That would be nice because I love having that second table. Uh, I just would love to hear a little bit of coverage on what's going on at the table, even if it's just a single person doing a little play-by-play. But yeah, good coverage overall. It's going to be fun to watch going forward. So yeah, I
Give
think
me, give me one guy you like coming through the one loss side, Mike. If you had to pick, like, who do you like to maybe make it to that final eight round from the one loss side?
well, I still think Jason. I mean, Jason, if you're on the one loss side, but you don't play the first match, you only have to win once, right? So, so Jason, those guys who are waiting for the first round losers to get through, they're in a better position. Obviously, they only have to win
Right.
once. So, you got if I had to pick one person, I'd say Jason for sure. Um, you know, Pinico.
Well, that's such a soft pick, Mike, because that's the most obvious one
We
out of the
said
whole thing.
give you one.
I was hoping my man would go out on a limb and take some like unknown, like I'm gonna go with Kopinhan or Moritz or someone that's gonna go and just stand out of nowhere,
If you
But
said
no, my
give
man
you one,
goes straight
if you said
for the
give you one
chalk.
out of the top 10, okay. You know, you
Yeah,
know,
no,
I don't know, Omar. Um, you know,
yeah, I don't think you can argue with any, with either of these guys. I mean, I know there's some that on paper are going to be dogs over others, but yeah, I mean, we've seen it today. Anything can go and happen, and all these guys are able to go and run 9 ball, Mike. They can all go and break with the template. Uh, there was a comment in here by Matt Poland saying that Wojcik was soft breaking. It's so hard to go and police it, Mike, because it's very arbitrary. With a template, common sense tells me to go and there's no need to go and hit the balls hard because you're almost guaranteed to get that wing ball
right,
racking with the one on the spot with a template.
right.
But that whole forceful break, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the wording. But on the
Yeah,
other side of it, I'm glad it's no 3-point rule. I'm curious to go and see if they're going to change up to a triangle rack leading into the final 64 because we've seen it before in other events where they
they
have
did,
made that transition.
yeah, they did this last year at the World Championship.
Yeah.
Same event last year where they switched then to the 64, they switched to the rack. And, that's, that's a whole different story about changing the middle of the tournament, but it certainly would make things a little more interesting.
It'd be a lot more pool being played, Mike, instead of a lot more runouts.
Yeah,
I can understand it. Like I was one of these guys complaining about the change last year. When I thought about it from a logistical standpoint, it was well, we have to get these matches done, right? These first because we start off with so many players, we have X amount of tables to go and use, yada yada. Um, so I can understand that it is difficult to go and justify a change in the middle of an event, though. That I agree with. But I like seeing the moving, Mike. I like seeing the pool being played. I like seeing the safety battles and the jump shots and kicking of the balls, and you get a lot more of that when there's a triangle being racked on there. So,
yeah,
um, but there's also all that added time each and every rack because all the refs are there pushing it and trying to work to get it frozen and all those fun things. But
well, yeah, it's a good point. I don't think that they really, I don't know what the logistics are, but I don't think they've really been all that concerned about the time. I mean, a lot of these matches have flown by, so I don't think that the racking would make that big a difference. But I'm sure they have their
well, I
reason.
mean, I guess it's like this because you're racking X amount of times and you got X amount of matches. So like if you're going and tacking on, let's say another 60 seconds, I mean, that'll go and add up as a collective, Mike. You know what I'm saying? And I guess
Yeah,
that's the point I was trying to make.
yeah,
And so from there, I can kind of understand it a little bit more. But either way, man, I mean, I'm super pumped, and it's really gonna start getting like now when you watch Jason play, it's not gonna be chalk anymore because you've already seen him go, take a loss from a no one.
yeah.
So it's like all of these guys who you may think, I don't gotta watch that because I don't gotta pay attention to that score because they're gonna go and get through. It's gonna be a cakewalk. But wait a minute, Mike, because anything can go and happen, and it's gonna make for a great day two of the World Nine Ball Championship. So I'm super excited.
Yeah, it should be great. Tomorrow will be great. And then Friday, Friday's when the lid comes off and it's win or go home for the last 64. So,
When does this wrap up, Mike? Is it Friday?
no, Friday's when they go to the 64 single. So wrap up on Sunday,
Oh, on Sunday.
I believe, right? Because you go 64 probably to,
Hmm. This is something we ought to know before we hit the live
yes,
button, Panozzo. You know, this, this maybe we have a little powwow here before. Let's take a look here. Oh, through the 10th, through
64
the
to
10th.
60. I'm sorry.
So we're it's through the
The
10th,
10th
Mike.
Sunday.
So yeah.
10th is
Oh,
Sunday.
that is it. Okay. Well, there you go. Well, then yeah, we got 4 more days of some great pool, man. So it's gonna be fantastic. And what I love is that as you start getting down to it, that means a lot more like matches are gonna start being shown, and it's gonna freeze in that section, and you're gonna be able to watch and enjoy like all the drama that goes throughout that bracket. Which just really makes it really makes you want to go and root or follow a player. It really makes you kind of go with the ebbs and flows of the tournament, and just a lot more like emotionally invested in seeing what the hell is going on.
Oh, no
So
doubt. When it gets single elimination, you start looking through and you pick your horses, and you know
yeah,
you you watch every match really intently, and because you know that there's no second chances at that point. So everything's critical, and all of a sudden somebody gets sidetracked by Oliver Solnacki like last year, and it just changed the dynamic of the whole event, right? So
Shane was like, it was his year, Mike. It
no,
was his year.
he was
You
on
know,
cruise control through the first things, and then it was he's playing on a side table, and they changed to a regular wooden rack, and next thing you know he's out of the tournament. So uh, just one of those things. Yeah.
it is, and you know what? But it can make stars over the next few days because you can really put your name on the radar when it comes to professional pool. You bring up Oliver. 12 months later, it doesn't look like such a shock anymore because we've seen consistency out of him. We've seen him
Yeah.
go and go deep in great events. I remember Moritz last year who gave Jason a run for his money. I want to say in the single elimination, Mike. The kid was like
Yeah.
12 years old or something, and giving Jason hell. So yeah, I mean it's a great time for the game. A lot of young stars, a lot of names that are kind of going down, names who are going through. I, that the I want to see Shane win one though. I'm not gonna lie,
Yeah,
Mike.
of course.
I want to see Shane get a world championship, and I'm not that USA guy. I'm not that rah
I,
rah rah like Panozzo is.
no, I'm not a rah rah USA guy. I mean, I've become more over the years, a little bit more because just because we're not the favorites anymore. You
Right.
know, so it's good to see your guys pull through and when they're not the favorites. But I feel the same way about Jason. I want to see Jason win a world championship. Uh,
Yeah.
you know, these guys deserve it. Again, I've said a million times, not going to make any difference to me in terms of Shane's legacy, whether he wins a world championship or not, because it's a tournament among other tournaments. So it's not the culmination of something, right? It's just one tournament that he didn't win. So, but I think it would be great to see him, hoist that trophy, especially at this, he's getting into his late 30s now, not like his career's over, but,
Yeah.
the window's starting to get a little bit tighter in terms of,
It is. Yeah. Well, man, you can
realistically,
start seeing you can see the sunset, Mike, from here.
a little bit.
That's the thing.
It's going to be hard.
And he makes no bones about it, to his credit. Like Shane doesn't BS it. He flat out said it. If things don't change, I'm out. I'm done. I'm over with. I'm hanging it up.
Yeah.
Um, I remember years ago, like saying, "Oh, Shane needed to get the monkey off his back," and then he wins a World Pool Masters, and it's like, well, it's an invitational, but it's still a great event. I wanna, I wanna see Shane win a World Championship. I
Yeah.
do, and it would really be something special. to go and watch it. And I think it'd be great for the game too. Like I think it would be great for the sport in general because he's one of those guys that moves the needle, in all parts of the country. I mean, all parts of the world rather.
Yeah, yeah.
Like he's a fan favorite everywhere that he goes, and people go and show up to go and watch that man play. So I would love to go and see it. But how, if Albin wins again, Mike, what is that like? What would that make the last 18 months stretch wise and like
It would
for tournament
be
play?
it would be stupid. And he would be the first to tell you that. I mean, he looked at last year and just said, I don't know if I can ever do that again. It was just that nuts and that you know dominating, and he just if you put the name Matchroom on a tournament, he's probably going to do pretty well.
He always steps up in big moments, Mike. He
Yeah.
always steps up on these stages. It doesn't matter
I don't
what
know
it is.
if the World Pool Masters, has he?
No, I don't think so. But I mean, World Cup of Pool, now the
Yeah,
PLP, CLP back to back, a two-time now world champion. I know the first time wasn't under Matchroom's umbrella, but either way, I
yeah.
mean, I don't want to I mean, yeah, we had two great victories, and I don't want to be a victim of the moment or kind of get too far ahead of ourselves. But it's like I said the same thing heading into PLP. There's because just from an odd standpoint, it's so tough to go and repeat. Like not even you take names out or opponents out, like just from a odd
No,
standpoint of
yeah,
just a pure numbers game. It is
yeah,
super difficult to go and repeat,
yeah,
and he did it.
yeah.
So I don't know.
If he wins, then it's just put him in the Hall of Fame tomorrow and give him the rest of his life off.
He'll probably and you know what the sick part is? He'll probably go home, relax for 2 days, and then be back working for the next event and get ready because he's just that kind of a sicko.
Yeah, he's a professional. He's a professional. He treats himself like a professional athlete in his preparation, in his mental health, in his physical health, in his approach. He treats it like a professional athlete, and so you got to respect that.
Give me one American that's gonna be there in the final eight, not named Van Boning.
In the final eight,
The final eight, Mike.
that's
Final eight.
well, final eight. Um, I'll take the kid.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't blame you.
I don't like Sky's chances from you know winning now what would be you know 6, 7 matches in a row. Not sure. I like that. Um, Billy, I don't think is playing that well,
I don't.
and I don't see Chris or I'd love to see Oscar reach final eight. He's a guy that I think will win tomorrow and get himself into that final 64, and he's a dangerous player for anybody.
Ask
So
Josh. Ask Josh what he thinks about Oscar.
yeah. So, I mean, he's just a solid player. So yeah, I'd love to see him. I would say either him or Shane Wolford would be the best American chances to reach 16 or 8. 8 would be great. 16, I'd even take. 16, I'd be happy as a lark for both of them, right?
Yeah, 100%. It would really kind of just put their, like I mean, Oscar's gonna have to win to kind of get on that Moscone radar. Like I mean, and what I mean by win is like you really got to go deep.
Yeah.
Uh, Shane Wolford's been knocking on that door, and he's continuing to go and take steps that we talked about earlier. I'd have to agree with you, Mike. Like if I'm gonna go and put them in order, that's probably what I'm gonna go and do. But I don't want to I'm not gonna overlook Sky Woodward. I can promise you that because if he's playing anyone, and this includes the Jasons, the Joshes of the world, he can go and be even money, odds to go and win. So,
You can't.
um,
I just think that the 2 extra wins that he's got to have over people who
right.
are
Well, I
64
mean, yeah, you mean the guy's
makes
got
him.
to go and play a couple of less matches. You got to like his chances, right? You
Uh,
kind of have to have these you have to do a lot to get there, and I get it, and a lot of luck's got to be involved, the break's got to be good. There's a number of different factors that all have to kind of form together, and at the end of the day, Mike, you got to get hot, right?
yeah, you do have to get hot. Yeah, and we'll hope that a couple Americans get hot again. I'd love to see Oscar do it. I mean, we talk about Oscar, we talk about Shane Wolford. Obviously, it's harder at this point for Oscar to work his way onto the Moscone Cup than it is for Shane Wolford. Shane Wolford shows some promise in a couple of events, has a decent. He's going to get the closer look than Oscar,
Well,
who's at that latter
not
part of his career with the
not
same.
just that, but you expect Shane to be playing a lot more events than Oscar because Oscar's got a full time business too, you know,
Yeah, no,
and,
no doubt,
and he's a father and all, of
no
course.
doubt about it. I just think, like I said, if they had if they had exact same um, finishes in the same events from here through the end of the year, who would you think Jeremy would pick?
I'm gonna plead the fifth, and on that note, we're gonna go and call it a night because you and I
Yeah,
both know
hammer and
you and
Shane.
I you and I both know the answer to that question, Mike Panozzo. We both know the answer to that question,
And,
but
and
I'll say I want to see some things shaking up there, and you know how I feel about that.
yeah, I
So
do. I'm looking at it strictly from the standpoint of you're more likely to take the younger guy because you're starting to
right.
groom in the future, right? So that's the way you would end up having to go. But
Well, but
I'm not
do you think Jeremy's got that kind of that's a whole other topic. But if Jeremy's got that kind of I think he's more in a win now than ever before, Mike. As far
um,
as as opposed to like instead of if this was a couple of years ago when you had the chance to pick your full team, okay, you got a little bit of playing room, you got time,
yeah.
right? I think right now maybe kind of in a win now kind of mode, but I don't think that picking Shane Wolford is the wrong move because something's got to go and give, and that kid can go and get there. And I could say the same thing for Oscar too. I would love to
Well,
see both of them go and play.
you start looking at the people that someone like Shane would be up against as that number 4 or 5 pick, and it's the guys who've been there,
Right.
the Chris's and the Tylers, and they're not dazzling anybody right now. So there'd be you wouldn't be risking a whole hell of a lot right now.
Right.
So, but let me ask you this: they were talking. I saw an interview with Alex Laley, and he said that he liked this. He actually said he thought it was going to make it easier on him with the format now being three uh, points selections, three ranking selections, and 2 wildcard picks. I completely disagree. I think his job is going to be freaking impossible this year for the final 2 wildcard picks because what if the rankings say Josh, Victor Zelinsky, and
I mean,
and
what?
Francisco Sanchez Ruiz? Okay, now who are your final 2 picks? Have fun with that one.
Good luck, right?
Yeah,
Good,
have fun with.
good effing luck there, buddy. Because that you want to talk about being up against it. We asked him this last year. Like, what do you think of? Like, what are you looking for from the wild cards? And he says, I want experience, right? Well, if you're gonna have a Wojcik there, I'm not trying to be a victim of the moment, but if
Yeah,
you're gonna have, if you're gonna have Ruiz there, if you're gonna have these guys who are, rookies and we haven't seen them go and perform, you're gonna have to go with anchors, Mike.
yeah, you're gonna have
And
an
you know,
album.
yeah, you're exactly right. You're gonna go with Albin, you're gonna go with Filler, you're gonna go with Shaw. Those are gonna be the first 3 guys up. Problem is that if none of those 3 guys go and make it on points, that means you got 2 spots to go and fill between three
Yeah,
guys.
that's why I said. That's why I said I was surprised that he
Yeah.
said thought that this was going to make his decisions easier, and I thought, not a chance, dude. Not the way things are going with the winners being so unpredictable this year. I haven't even mentioned someone like Hachi. You know,
Well, I think Clancy's gonna have to win in order to get on. I don't think there's any chance that he goes and makes that team from a
as a
wild card standpoint.
you're
No, I don't think so.
100%,
Yeah,
100%.
yeah,
So,
and
yeah, it's really gonna be interesting. I think that it's going to be really interesting watching the European race for Moscone Cup this year.
yeah.
It's going
And
to be crazy come the end of the year.
and here's my thing: like when it comes to the American side, when they're gonna be underdogs no matter what.
Yeah,
Sky and Shane are the only ones on paper that can go and be even money against any of Europe's top 5, and even Shane will go and say that Josh has had his number. What I look for, Mike, is that poise mixed in with experience. I get that both with Wolford from what I've seen and Oscar. Even
yeah,
though from a skill standpoint or maybe um, practice, whatever you want to go and say, Oscar hasn't been doing it like the rest of these guys. And I think he'll be the first to go and tell you. I like his experience there. I like his fearlessness. I like that he can go and get there with anybody. The same thing with what I've seen of Wolford over the last two events. When I saw him out in Vegas go and play Co, smooth. I mean, he lost, but it was smooth. You go and
Yeah.
see him up against David after have a big lead, lose a big lead. He got there. He finished. He did his job. And that's what you kind of want to see. You want to see these guys go and take steps. And we've seen back-to-back years where Americans just don't show up. I
Yeah.
mean, for the most part. So you need to kind of stir the hornet's nest a little bit. You kind of have to change it up, and hopefully you get a spark from somewhere. And I think that, I mean, I don't want to go and campaign all over again for Oscar and get my heart broken, because that was pretty brutal. but but
I,
how Mike can be a homer, I can be rooting for my guy Oscar. What could I say? So
there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's
no, there's not. There's not. I love these conversations, Mike. I really do. I love these debates. I love kind of, not picking these guys apart, but just kind of, talking shop and making ourselves look like a fool out here, and talking about what did happen, what could happen, what may happen. Uh I love pool, Mike, and I know you have that same affliction as I do.
and I enjoy these. It's I refer to as barstool sports, and it's the best
Yeah.
one. You just sit there with your buddy who you both have the same passions and same loves,
Yeah.
whether it's baseball, tennis, pool, whatever. And you sit there and you debate each other all day long over a couple beers. It's great stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as always, Mike, I appreciate it. We're going to end the show for tonight. But yeah, hopefully we can come on again and have a day two thing and just kind of keep pace. I know you got a lot going on, but if you're able to, let me know
Always,
and we'll try to figure
always
it
got
out, Mike.
you and Joey.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm going to hold you to it, Mike. And on that note, we'll see you guys later.
See you later.